Sunday night is here with us once again, and that only means one thing. Scorecard is back on your screens on Citi TV. My name is Benjamin Iketia. It's been quite an interesting week in the world of sports. As far as Ghanaian players moving are concerned, a lot is happening. Mohammed Salisu could be on the move. Kamaldeen Sulemana could be on the move. And then the star boy himself, Mohammed Kudus, could be on the move as well. Thomas Partey has joined Arsenal for preseason in the United States of America. We'll be talking about that. And then also we'll talk about Declan Rice and how he fits into the new Arsenal system. So there have been some Premier League preseason friendlies if you've been following, and it looks like fans don't care if it's preseason. The emotions are already heightened. We are in for quite the campaign. There's the Women's World Cup happening as well. We'll talk about that. So a lot to chew on as far as the show is concerned. Let's do a quick turnaround. When we come back, I'll introduce my guest and then we start talking. Welcome back to Scorecard here on Citi TV. I have two of my good friends here, Edwin Kwakofi and Yao Jamie Tao of Citi Sports. Gentlemen, it's good to have you on the show.
Yeah, good to be here.
Yeah.
Lovely stuff. Scorecard. A lot to do today. Limited time, so let's get right into it. Let's start off with the Women's World Cup happening all the way in Australia and New Zealand. African representation, obviously, will be our focus. Let's start off. We have two games for you. Sweden were up against Bayana. South Africa were looking for their first ever points at the Women's World Cup. It wasn't to be. And then Zambia were up against Asian powerhouse Japan. The Japanese did not have mercy. Back-to-back highlights. We'll come back in studio and discuss. Yes, so South Africa will be kicking themselves. Edwin, let me start off with you. South Africa have grown nicely as a female powerhouse in the past couple of years. Nonetheless, I was expecting a little better from them, especially since they were in a good position in this game before throwing it away.
Really true, because they took the lead. You don't expect a team that takes the lead to just give it away just like that. And unfortunately, they did. A few mistakes cost them. The own goal, defensive lapses, and at the last minute, loss of concentration. Losing that game in such a manner tends to derail teams' tournament. For South Africa, they'll hope that it doesn't, because there were signs in the game that they probably could have gone on to win this game by 2 goals, 3 goals, if they are taking their chances, if they are played a little more offensively, if they are taking initiative and gone forward. But after the goal, despite a few chances on the transition, going forward, attacking Sweden, they just lost their way and started to draw back. And once you draw back, you concede a lot more chances, concede a lot more possession. You are forced to run around chasing the ball. They did that a lot, and eventually they tired out. Once the Swedes took over, there was every chance they were going to get a goal. They got the equalizer, kept on moving. And unfortunately for South Africa, in the last few minutes of the game, they conceded. Hopefully for them, it doesn't derail their competition. They keep that momentum from the first few minutes of the game, the first part of the game, into their next game. Otherwise, if they lose focus, that's it for them. But they played really well. I'm disappointed they couldn't pick up the victory, but good for them to start off in a very strong manner, performance-wise, not results-wise.
Something to take some positives from.
You take positives into the next game, and hopefully they can pick up results there.
Yeah, I'm not sure Zambia have any positives to take out of a 5-0 thrashing. And if you watch that game, it could have been worse.
Oh yeah, it definitely could have been worse, because they were all over the place. The organization just wasn't there. They got easily exploited by the Japanese speed, their sense of positional awareness, and a little bit of experience, because this is Zambia's debut at the Women's World Cup, and you could tell that yes, it was a whole new different level that they were competing in. And so yeah, I'm not surprised they ended up losing, but 5 goals, that was a little bit on the high side.
Japan are old ladies as far as women's football is concerned.
Zambia actually didn't have a single shot on goal, single shot on target, no shot.
And it was telling, because at the end of the day, their main star, that's Barbara Banda, she was up top and she was isolated the whole time in the game. And when you have just one player that you rely on for everything, in terms of an attacking sense or going for you offensively, it's easy to game plan, to thwart that player if you are the opposing teams and keep her frustrated. And that's exactly what the Japanese did. They made sure they isolated her and they pinned the Zambians in their own half and exploited them from the wing areas. And that was it.
Let's get more highlights. Let's get to more African representation. Nigeria were up against Canada. That game ended goalless. And then we'll check out the United States of America. They are the landladies of this competition. They own the competition. They were up against Vietnam. It was no stress at all. Back-to-back highlights. We'll check them out, and then we'll come back in studio and discuss. So the Super Falcons of Nigeria are doing a really good job there. And then the USA also doing well in their game. But I can't help but notice that Africa still yet to win a game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Nigeria were closest to getting that because even though they weren't the most dominant team against Canada, they had their moments. And just like South Africa today, they failed to take their chances. But they held Canada, who are a really strong team in the women's game in recent times. Sinclair had a chance to become the first person to score at 6 consecutive World Cups, but Chiamaka's penalty save was fantastic for them. And you listen to the Nigerian coach after that penalty save gave them a lot of hope, a lot of confidence in going into the game. So I think it will spread throughout the rest of the competition. Being able to hold Canada is a huge result for them. The next few games are a little tougher than that, but I expect Nigeria to
pick it up from there.
Pick up a few, possibly get Africa's first win at the World Cup.
Yeah, just final words on the games we just witnessed.
USA beating Vietnam, no surprise in there. I think with the exception of USA and Japan, those are the only big girls who've been able to get off to a good start. You look at the other big girls or the major contenders in there. You look at Australia. They kind of had a slow start. Generally, they didn't get it going against Ireland. They beat Ireland by 1-0. You look at France. France drew goalless. And they generally...
They drew goalless with Jamaica. Jamaica picked up a red card.
Against Jamaica. You look at England. They beat, the Philippines by a goal to 0. So it has... you look at the big girls in there. It hasn't been... straightforward for most
minus
of
the
them.
USA, everybody's
so,
still
minus the USA and Japan,
everybody's still warming themselves. We have Morocco versus Germany to come. So we have one more African country to come.
So most of them have either struggled or have had a slow start. So seeing the USA get off to a very good start, it definitely will boost their confidence.
Well, let me just go through a few results. Like we said, Sweden 2, South Africa 1. The Netherlands beat Portugal by 1-0 as well in their game. And then there's France versus Jamaica. That game ended goalless. When you look at the games that are yet to come, there are a few of them yet to come. We have tomorrow, we have Italy taking on Argentina. That should be a good one. We have Germany, Morocco, like I said. Brazil take on Panama. And then there's Colombia versus South Korea. So there's a lot happening as far as the Women's World Cup is concerned. We'll be giving you updates right here on Scorecard. Let's get into some preseason action now because it's been a really wonderful part of our off-season. Let's get into it right away. Chelsea Football Club in the United States, so a host of Premier League teams. Now, Chelsea were up against Brighton and Hove Albion. It was a goal fest. Mikhailo Mudryk finally getting something to fall in the back of the net. Let's check out the highlights of that game. We'll come back in studio and discuss. 7 goals produced in that game. Mudryk getting a really good goal, and you could tell the emotion in there. Nkunku playing on top for Chelsea. So very interesting things I noticed for Chelsea. Edward, let me start with you. Just snap thoughts. Nkunku, first and foremost, where is he most likely to play? Is he playing up top because Chelsea don't have a striker now, or is this what it is going to be?
Look, he himself has spoken about the fact that he sees himself as a number 9, as the central striker, especially after the first goal against Wrexham. The runs he made, the movements. After the game, he said that that is where he likes to play. And Pochettino has spoken about trying him, alternating him with Jackson. But in the next few games, we are going to see moments where Nkunku and Jackson play together. Nkunku behind Jackson as the possibly supporting striker or number 10. And that is the main reason why Chelsea didn't bring back Joao Felix, because they see Nkunku as someone who can play behind the main striker. but the player himself, he wants to play as the number 9. So we are going to see a season in which he is tried in different roles, because the player himself is very versatile.
True.
He can even play down the sides, down the wing. So there are a lot of opportunities for Chelsea. And given what we've seen so far in pre-season, he is going to be a very important player for them. It's not just about the goals. The movements, the control, the way he's able to occupy defenders in the air. He's very strong aerially. And that's not something
Which
I was...
It's very shocking, because he's
It's
not
very
the tallest
shocking.
guy.
He was against Brighton central defenders who were way taller than him. But he was constantly beating them.
He's very athletic.
He's very athletic, and he's strong as well too. So he was able to hold on to a lot of the balls. So the link-up play between the strikers and midfield, which has been a very big problem for Chelsea in recent months, is probably going to be solved with both Nkunku and Jackson. We saw Jackson to his link-up play with Mudryk. He's been doing it all pre-season. He's been assisting. I think a lot of players need to know that you don't have to be a goal scorer to be a good player. And I think Jackson is developing that. Of course, he can't
contribute your quota.
Yeah, he can't get his goals as well. But if you are able to contribute your quota, as you said, to the team's success, you will be a top player. And he has the makings of a top player. Knows when to leave it for his teammates. Knows when he has to attack. And Chelsea fans will be happy with the results so far in pre-season. But a lot of the mistakes we saw last season still exist. Defensively, there are a lot of problems as well. And taking chances has been a major problem for Chelsea. I didn't see too much that suggested that they'd solved it too much. But pre-season is a time to, deal with these problems. And there are good signs there for Chelsea.
Good signs indeed. I'm sure they'll take it, because last season, pre-season, by this time, Charlotte FC had beaten Chelsea, I believe. Probably lost a couple more games. He was looking real shaky. Let's take a break. When we come back, I'll let you have his take on the Chelsea preseason. We'll delve into Arsenal, Man United as well. There's a lot to discuss as far as preseason is concerned. Stay with us. Welcome back to Scorecard here on Citi TV. Let me just take your thoughts briefly. I mean, your quick takeaways from what you've liked or not liked from Chelsea so far in preseason.
Yeah, defensively, there's more room for improvement. Offensively, I like the versatility that is to come from the players that they've assembled. You look at Nicholas Jackson, you look at Christopher Nkunku, you look at Mudryk and what Raheem Sterling also brings to the table. They can have as many as 3-4 different sets of players that can bring a variety of strength to the table, and it can give different looks to opponents. And once you have that kind of range, that kind of variety, it makes it very difficult for opponents to game plan for your team. And for me, that's the biggest positive I'll take away from this Chelsea preseason so far. Honestly, it's preseason. I don't put too much premium on preseason, but at the end of the day, I like the variety of choices and the range of choices in terms of the talent pool that Mauricio Pochettino has at his disposal. And for me, that's a very big deal.
Big deal. Let's get back-to-back highlights. So let's get the highlights of that game between Man United and Arsenal, and then we'll get the highlights of Yokohama and Manchester City as well. Then we'll come back in studio and discuss. So very interesting games there. Let's start off with that game between Man United and Arsenal. Edu, let me start off with you, and let's talk about Arsenal. I was following the game. I was following the social media feed. I was trying to gauge how Gunners felt about their new signings, especially how Havertz and Odegaard, how Havertz and Declan Rice fits into the team. So
as well.
Good. So they started off with the midfield combo of that three: Odegaard, Havertz, and Rice. Rice as the pivot man in that middle, and it looks like the first 45 minutes basically passed him by.
Well, it's very unfair to blame Rice for that, because if you look at how both teams set up, United were more packed in midfield. They had Bruno Fernandes coming in to support both Mason Mount and Kobe Mainoo. So it was three of them against basically just Rice, because Havertz and Odegaard
the
were
lone
more
six
advanced.
role, they call it.
Yeah, so he was always going to be outmatched there. I think going further into the season, once Arteta assesses the squad and sees how his team is supposed to play, of course, he'll have better protection for Rice. But obviously, it wasn't his best game. His first few games for Arsenal haven't been the Rice we all know. But it takes time to build that chemistry with your teammates. They have to know when you move forward, when you come back. And it's not there yet. I think Arteta will be a lot more worried about the mistakes that his team made. Ramsdale should have probably kept that Bruno Fernandes shot out. And Gabriel Magalhaes mistiming his kick there. Those are more pertinent issues. But I feel that the performances have not been to the standard that Arteta wants so far.
United, I mean, or you wanted to have a touch on the Arsenal bit before we go on?
It was always going to be a problem pairing Odegaard with Kai Havertz and just Declan Rice playing as the sole pivots in that system, because defensively wise, Kai Havertz is not the strongest. It's not the strongest part of his. It's not the strongest part of his game. Odegaard, he does well. He puts in effort, shift,
but he's also not a good shift.
Defensively, that's not his biggest strength. So I always had this worry that one weakness of such a system will be that other teams or opposing teams could easily overrun Declan Rice in that pivot role, and that's the biggest weakness. Knowing very well also that behind him you have Zinchenko, who's also not defensively sound and not the best defensively, and that's one weakness that he needs to worry about and he needs to solve. And the biggest solution or the best solution would be a double-man pivot, knowing very well that Declan Rice has the athleticism to easily join the attack and also help out defensively with Thomas Partey playing in that sole pivot system. And Arteta has stated that he is in his plans that he can pair both and see them playing together. So honestly, I think he should dwell on it more and experiment on it more.
Talk to me about Aubameyang for Man United. He's really put in some impressive performances in preseason. In fact, yesterday at halftime, or the time that Arsenal United game was at halftime, he was trending #1 because he was literally bossing that midfield. Is this his breakout season? Is this a season where he gets substantive minutes in becoming a more regular face in that United first team?
Substantive minutes, I don't see it happening yet. Substantive minutes, I don't see it happening yet. But just solid enough minutes for his age category, yes, I see it happening. Because he's, 18, 19? And if you get your usual 10 minutes here, 15 minutes there, kind of like Rico Lewis, what Manchester City did with Rico Lewis last season. If he gets those amounts of minutes, I think that's progress enough. Because last season, he was kept around the first team for the most part. And he was consistently on the bench, and he featured in a couple of FA Cup games, a couple of league games, very few minutes that he played. So if he can get consistent minutes in the 10 to 15 minutes range, and he improves on the number of appearances that he makes for this season, I think that's the breakthrough he needs for next season, for him to be able to step up when Casemiro
drops off a little.
It starts dropping off a little bit.
Let's talk some transfers now. A lot's been happening. Let's stay with United. Onana has arrived. £45 million. It looks like United have finally gotten their man. Ten Hag has his man. What are we to expect?
Well, Ten Hag has a style of play. He wants to build from the back. And Onana provides the perfect base to do that. He's very solid with his feet. And I think a lot of people don't give him enough credit for his throwing as well. His ability to throw the ball really well, really far as well. So he provides a perfect base to start. He is comfortable holding on to the ball, allowing players to make their moves. But he won't work alone. United need a forward or a striker who can hold on to the ball. And I think that's why they are desperately trying to get Højlund. It's not going too well so far, but they need to get that deal done as quickly as possible so that he comes in for preseason. He's able to build an understanding with Onana going into the season, or whichever striker they end up getting, because Onana also has his deficiencies as well. He tends to over-elaborate sometimes, makes mistakes.
Ball-playing goalkeepers are like that.
Exactly. And he needs some time. United fans need to give him some patience because he's going to obviously make mistakes. goalkeepers like him obviously do.
Yeah.
Whether they make a wayward pass, they give it away to the first striker in front of them, it's going to happen. So you need to keep your patience with him. You've already lost one goalkeeper that you didn't keep patience with. De Gea, he made a lot of saves. United fans were not happy because of how he was not able to build, how he made a lot of errors.
Yeah.
Onana is the same way. He has a lot of deficiency, aerial balls, set pieces. He's not really good at 1v1s. But the good for Onana, the pros outweigh the cons. And once he fits into Ten Hag's system, once he's able to build from the back and allows United to play the Ten Hag way, I think he's going to be a really good signing.
Yeah. Well, let's move on and talk about more transfers. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Finally, looks like he's been let out of jail. He must have had a nightmare right after Thomas Tuchel left Chelsea. He has been shunted to the back room. Loan moves had been discussed, falling through. Finally, he goes to a place that speaks his language. Olympique Marseille in the French Ligue 1. Yeah, good move for Aubameyang?
Yes, professionally wise, good move, but not financially wise. Honestly, I thought he would go to Saudi Arabia.
I thought so too.
I thought he would go to Saudi Arabia.
I'm not sure why the Saudi clubs are not showing interest in Aubameyang.
I honestly thought he would go to Saudi Arabia, but looking at the fact that he's going to a league that he's well
he's
well versed with,
played in Ligue 1.
he played with
Saint
Saint-Étienne.
Yeah.
Yes, and the fact that Marseille at this point in time, Moussa Dembele looks like Moussa Dembele is with Olympique Lyon, and you look at the fact that Marseille, the likes of Bakola, the likes of Cengiz Onda, there isn't much proper in terms of agreement, whether he's staying or he's leaving. And like you mentioned, Dimitri Payet has also left.
just left, yeah.
Yes, and so you can't, with Marseille, you can't consistently depend on Alexis Sanchez throughout the entire season to give you goals. You need someone to also come in and support. And once you have Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang in there, at this stage of his career, he still has enough pace to play in the French league. And he's still, I wouldn't say prolific, but he's still efficient enough to be able to give you the goals that you need.
Look at that unveiling video with the thunder and the rain. And Marseille, people know how to do this type of stuff. Aubameyang and Sanchez is quite the veteran top. I mean,
but at the end of the day, last season, you look at the French league, Alexander Lacazette, he made as the second highest goal scorer. And so it proved that the vets, once you go to France, it's more likely to work out for you, because at the end of the day, what's the catchphrase for the French league? A league of talent. And those young talents, it comes with a lot of naivety. So if you're a veteran player, you know how to exploit those naive moments and get those goals.
Fair enough. Just snap thoughts on this Aubameyang move before we go for
I think he's been very unfortunate. When he came to Chelsea, almost a few weeks later, Thomas Tuchel was out. Tuchel obviously had a plan for him, and he even started his Chelsea career really well. Unfortunately, things just deteriorated. The club was very unstable, so he had to move. He was never really given a good chance at Chelsea. I'm happy to see that he's got another move. As you said, I expected him to go chase the money, but if he feels he still has a lot in his legs to handle the French League, and then very good for him.
Well, let's continue discussing more transfers, I've been told. Let's talk about Mohammed Kudus, because he has appeared on the radar of some big Premier League clubs. So first it was Arsenal, whom apparently wanted to secure Kudus' signature. Arteta likes Kudus' versatility, but he's emerged as a target for Chelsea as well. So it looks like there will be some kind of race for Kudus. The word is that it's been discussed. No official bids have been made yet, but let me start with you, Yao. Kudus target for Chelsea, very interesting.
Yeah, that's very surprising, honestly. I don't see him working well at Chelsea.
Why not?
Because they have a lot of Kuduses around, and they haven't really settled on what is their right formation and what are the right personnel to use. And honestly, I see him going there and getting lost in all that chaos. They are still not settled. In as much as the Chelsea has Mauricio Pochettino in there, they have a feel of the number of players that they are likely to work with for the upcoming season. There's still a little bit of chaos, especially in that midfield. Who is the one going to play best next to Enzo Fernandez? Is it Caicedo? Is he coming in? Is he not coming in? Conor Gallagher, what's his future? Andre Santos, can he step up and be that defensive midfielder and allow Enzo Fernandez to fully exploit?
His positioning is not solid because they don't know exactly who's coming in.
Exactly. So if he goes there, and at this point in time, he needs a lot of game time. That's one key thing I honestly believe should be the drive for a move from Ajax. Because he's 24? At this point in time, you shouldn't be shunting through between bench and the first team, very limited minutes. That's not what he needs at this point in time. He needs a place where he can play consistently and take that next step in his career. And for me, Chelsea is just not it.
Let me have your thoughts on that.
Maybe go to Dortmund.
Believe me, I'd like to see Kudus at Chelsea. And the recruitment they've done of young players has been impressive at the club. But I feel for Kudus' personal growth and development, Chelsea might not be the best place for him right now. As y'all said, there's a lot of players there who play in that Kudus position. A lot of players who can't play.
Noni Madueke is still struggling to settle into the team.
Chukwuemeka, who has been very impressive in preseason. Mudryk can fit in as well. A lot of players can be in there. I think he needs to go to a club where he can immediately make a claim for the starting spot. And I feel that Brighton might be a good start for him, or a Dortmund where he can go and learn a lot under very little pressure. If he comes to Chelsea, you are under immense pressure right from the spot.
Especially in the context of what Chelsea is coming in from last season, the new owners, new manager.
Exactly. So if you come in and you don't perform, you have to take a few days or a few weeks or a few months to get into your stride. It's not going to be easy for you. Fans are going to come after you. So I'm not really sure about that.
Let's talk about Kudus' best friend, Kamaldeen Sulemana. Now, he is with Southampton and they play in the Championship currently. He's attracted interest from his former league, the French Ligue 1. So Lille have expressed interest. A host of other clubs have also expressed interest. Again, no formal bid yet, but it looks like Kamaldeen could be rescued from the Championship.
Yes. Again, at this point in time, look, you can have your say on whether it was a good move to move to Southampton, but I honestly believe
that ship has sailed.
I honestly believe it was a good move, knowing very well that he will get game time, and that was the next step. If you had gone to, let's say, Leipzig, game time wasn't assured. The path to game time wasn't clear enough. But at Southampton, he got that extensive game time. Yeah, he underperformed a little bit, but closer to the end of the season, he came in quite strong. And the Ligue 1 teams took notice, and that's how come they have a couple of teams expressing interest in him. Honestly, any league in the top 5, top 6, top 7 leagues in Europe, once he gets game time, he has a clearer path to game time. He should take it. I honestly don't see him developing into the player we all envisage when he's in the Championship.
Interesting thoughts there. I mean, I thought that Kamaldeen would play in the Championship. I'm still keen to see if there are teams out there willing to shell out 30 million or 25 million for a player like him. Let's get to Besiktas because they have acquired Dani Amartey. Dani Amartey became a free agent after moving on from Leicester City. Remember, Leicester have been relegated. Amartey is heading to Turkey. Edwin.
Well, Amartey's reputation has taken a huge dip in recent months. Even at Leicester, even for the Ghana Black Stars, people are calling for him to be dropped. And I feel that this is a chance for him to re-establish his reputation under the radar at Besiktas, who are known as a club who allow players to develop, allow players to play, have their time to get into their form. They finished third last season. They'll be chasing Galatasaray next season. They'll be playing in the Europa League. More competitions for him to play to rediscover his form. And we might end up seeing the best of Dani Amartey if things go well. So, good move for him.
Good move for him. Yeah, I'll just snap thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's a good move. Honestly, if you are not...
I didn't think you'd be getting a club as big as Besiktas.
Yeah, because Besiktas is a big club, and the level of competition, especially in those big games involving Besiktas, Galatasaray, Fenerbahce, and now
Trabzonspor here in the mix.
Exactly, and so the level of competition, it's not as high as, let's say, an EPL. It's not as high as La
gets to play in Europe.
But at the end of the day, it's a tough league, and it keeps your competitiveness sharp enough. And having Alexander Djiku also at Fenerbahce, I think is solid enough, because you were looking at a situation where Amartey could have been heading over to the Gulf, and for a potential starting centre back, that's not too well in terms of your prospects. If you're a Black Stars, knowing very well that Amartey's career was a little bit on the down. Was at a slide, and so for me, I think it's a very good move.
Finally, we're almost out of time. Fulham Football Club showing interest in Mohamed Salisu, another rescue from the Championship, possibly on the cards.
Well, Marco Silva, his decision to stay at Fulham will reignite that move. I think Fulham is a good place for Salisu to go and develop, because if at Southampton there were moments where you felt that a mistake waiting to happen. He wasn't in his best form, but we know how strong a defender he is, and he will serve Fulham really well if he does go there.
Left-footed centre-back, good height. Let me read a few messages to close out the show. This guy here says, K from Suhum says, Ten Hag should use veto power to bring Greenwood from exile, because what Anthony is doing is a replica to what Kiluka did for us. Kobe Meno should play ahead of Eriksen. Guy is a gem. Manaman says so from Dubai and Crow says, good evening, Ben and Pundits. Good start for Eric Ten Hag and his players now pre-season. We Mancunians are hoping that they replicate the same form when the season starts. This one says, Man United have to sign a new striker. We can't rely on Marseille and Rashford to contest for trophies. And then finally, this one here says that Alassane, aka Humble Lion from Kaswa, we United fans never care whether it's friendly match, World Cup. All we know is we use Timber to harvest rice. He says, where is coach? Well, coach, like I said, is on a little sabbatical. When the season starts, you see him refreshed, energized, and ready to deliver the sports. But thank you very much, Edwin. Thank you very much, Yao. It's been amazing hanging out with you guys. Same time next week, Scorecard will be back on Citi TV.